Hello, everyone. We're going to get started here in just a minute. Just doing a quick check to make sure everything's coming through. We'll be live in 60 seconds. Okay, folks, a couple logistical items, I guess I'd say just before we get started. We will record this webinar. It is being recorded. We can furnish it if it's requested afterwards. So we are happy to do that. This webinar today will run about 30 minutes. We know folks have busy commitments. We try to be a group of our word. So we will try to get through things. At the end, if there's time, we will see if there's some Q&A that comes through. We will keep it tight, and there are plenty of opportunities to follow up. So again, welcome for those that are just joining us. We're right on time to start. My name is Mike Nowak. I'm Chief Revenue Officer, and I'll be helping host today's session along with my counterpart here, Kurt Hicks, Centaris Chief Product Officer. Today's webinar is specifically on deploying AI securely and consistently. This has been an absolute hot topic for us, and this is the second time we've hosted this webinar live, just because there was so much demand previously. So hopefully this is a good session for you, and again, plenty of opportunities. This webinar is part of our commitment to education. At Centaris, we do a lot of education. We believe the world is a moving target, and there's a lot of things that our teams are uncovering that we think we should share with you as you plan ahead. One of the things that we do every month is we do a demo day. These demo days are at our Centaris headquarters in Sterling Heights. These are typically around folks that are interested in Microsoft Teams and Teams deployments, and they want to see all the hardware and tools and capabilities for conferencing and conference modern collaboration. But because of the demand for AI and conversations around AI, these have become almost like an AI open house where folks are coming in on the same day, checking out what they can do with Teams, checking out what they can do with conference capabilities, but also dovetailing that into engineering calls. And so we call this an AI open house. And so this is just where we have a lot of our folks all together the same day. The next one's on August 11th. Always happy to have you come to our office, the main headquarters in Sterling Heights. And if you don't know where to go, info@centaris.com is a great email address to use. We know there's some folks that have worked with Centaris for a long time, and we know there's some folks that are considering Centaris on this call. Just a few headlines if you want to know the latest on the company and what we're doing. We are in an absolutely wonderful spot here and super excited to be partnering with you or potentially partnering with you. We have over 40 plus years of history, of course, but we are a sizable entity with some outstanding resources here, especially on the cybersecurity side, which leads into today's conversation. We are 150 folks strong, 3 offices, and we are financially stable, growing, and we definitely are growing. I think you're going to see more capabilities and more things that will help you as you go forward. So a little background on the company just to catch you up to speed. And we do have 3 wonderful offices, headquarters of Sterling Heights. Would love you to stop by. Today's webinar was really stemmed from what we were hearing from our clients really all year long. We have over 500 clients, and we kept hearing, how do I deploy AI consistently? Not just Copilot, just AI in general, consistently and securely. How do I stop unauthorized AI use and prevent sensitive data leakage? Huge topic. And then the third one, where can I get training? How do I use this effectively? So folks were at all different levels, and we felt like we knew how to help, and we wanted to address it in webinars and with subject matter expert calls, et cetera. Furthermore, we're heavily involved in helping organizations with compliance, whether it's HIPAA or CMMC or TSAPs, and we discovered pretty quickly is to have an effective environment for AI use. It also requires you to level up on your cybersecurity, which helps you stay in compliance. So all this stuff is really linked. Our process that we do is a multi-step process for folks to go through this journey. It starts, of course, with just a discovery pre-sales consultation, but we do want to make sure that you have the correct infrastructure in place. There's always a recommendation. This is how you should do it. Folks are sometimes not in position to do it immediately, and sometimes they need to plan for the future. But we want to make sure that you know what's needed. We do this every single day, have some outstanding resources, and it's well proceduralized to help you get the information that you need to know where you stand and how you can move forward. And so again, it's a regimented process, and that's how we do it. We definitely want to talk about security today. We do want to talk about how to properly deploy AI. Copilot is a consideration for some. We do not require that you use Copilot. We can support multiple language models. And I thought this might be a good opportunity to bring in my counterpart here, Kurt Hicks. And Kurt, maybe you can share just a little bit about Copilot and our positioning on supporting folks that may be choosing different language models. How about I hand
Yeah,
it to you?
appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. Copilot's the user interface or the front door to AI. It connects users to intelligent agents, leading AI models. So you can link Copilot to Claude and ChatGPT, but it provides a secure, enterprise-ready experience that uses the best tools for the task at hand. So it's still grounded in the Microsoft security and ecosystem.
I mean, I think the take on it, right, Kurt, is the UI of AI, and it's
Yeah.
an outstanding place to start because of its capabilities. And I think this slide kind of speaks to it.
Yeah, so Copilot should be the starting point for most organizations because it combines like leading AI models like Claude and ChatGPT with the Microsoft data permissions and security controls. So the point here is you're founded in the Microsoft ecosystem, and you have all the data and security controls built into that. When specialized capabilities require like native ChatGPT or Claude, we can securely integrate an approved business version, right? You have to have the right license of those tools too, using the controlled access, the Microsoft 365 connectors, and the data protection. So again, we can, leverage different models, and we can also go down a path where that model is the predominant one in the organization, or there's, again, it's all use case based. So our strategy is Copilot first, not Copilot only.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think Kurt, many times we've had organizations in our office or just virtual meetings, and some folks are open-minded. They haven't really started their journey, and some folks are absolutely dead set on a language model. And we can assist them regardless of which one they choose. But we do have a significant expertise on the Copilot side. So Kurt, I'd like just to share a few stats, and I think this will get us into more of the security conversation. So these stats come from interviewing 23,000 plus small and medium business organizations. And in the surveys that were taken, I believe this is November of last year, was that there was significant concern about getting into AI and sensitive data leakage. The stats were really overwhelming. 80% of leaders cited leakage of sensitive data as their main concern. We've had folks tell us they were paralyzed because they didn't know what their employees were doing, and they were worried about how to govern that. So this pretty important. I think some of the folks on this call probably feel the same. Why don't we talk a little bit about, Kurt, why the importance of security, and maybe tying it into why do some of the AI deployments fail? How about talking to this for a second?
Yeah, certainly. I guess, why do AI implementations fail? So there's no security framework or data governance baseline in place, right? So you got to make sure security stack and environment is set up properly, and then you have to make sure that you have data governance around how the information is being used. So over permissioning data, meaning you move something from historically, make a file share maybe and dropped it on SharePoint, but you don't have a great model of how that's managed from a security perspective. The other thing is there's stakeholder misalignment. So there's no outcome defined. The biggest thing I think is you got to know what you want to do. I mean, AI is just everybody. I need AI or I need Copilot. Well, why? What are you trying to accomplish? So understanding the business problem is part of the way of getting the proper adoption of artificial intelligence. Done right, you avoid these pitfalls and accelerate adoption.
Well, let's talk about the strategy of how you do this.
So we view it as there's three phases to the successful journey, right? So strategy and assessment, security and data governance, review and remediation, and then licensing optimization. So the sequence reduces the deployment risk and accelerates the time to value. So again, have a strategy, make sure your security set up, and make sure you have the proper licensing. So the AI strategy starts with a simple discovery meeting that we have with you. We look at use case, we look at goals, we look at your risk appetite, but it begins a process of identifying the resource requirements, so security and data governance, and then we develop a phased roadmap as a deliverable. So it's really looking at what you're trying to do and then helping you with a document of how to get there.
Kirk, can you share just your experience? You've done probably 100 of these AI calls over the last probably 90 days, maybe 120 days. Folks are at different levels. Do you maybe just share a word on your experience of it? How variance is it?
Yeah, we have people that absolutely have said, we've chosen this model. We're going down this path. Okay, and they've invested time, money, and energy to get there. And I'll be candid. I mean, the Copilot platform is probably a little newer. The all capabilities of Copilot is a little newer than maybe like Claude, for instance. So some people have invested money in Claude and time, and there's a decision to maybe keep that. But again, we look at the whole organization and look at use cases and say, well, God, not everybody in your organization needs Claude. Maybe they just need Copilot based on what they're doing. So we can actually cohabitate in that environment. So we're seeing like everything from I've never touched anything before to, we're already down this path and we're probably not going to go back.
So Kurt, those that haven't done much with it shouldn't feel they're too far behind.
No, not at all. Not at all. Still understand the business problem and then how to solve it.
Excellent.
So identity and device security review, a data sensitivity label, identifying over permission files is a deliverable and an outcome, for trying to understand what you want. I don't care what model you're going to use from an AI perspective, Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot. At the end of the day, you got to make sure your environment where you store your information is both secure and you have some governance around what data can be shared and how it can be shared. And the next strategy is really looking at the Microsoft licensing. Microsoft is the most economical platform to be able to deliver cross organizational security. So we provide bringing all this together. We expedite and assist our clients with provisioning the right Microsoft license to assist. We have models up to 300. So Microsoft has that, they call that the SMB space, 300 or less staff. And then we have models at 300 plus. And we just kind of look at what you have and come back with recommendations on what you need, again, to get your organization secure and the proper data governance in place.
Kurt, maybe you can clarify. I know we've had a question before where folks said, well, I'm not using Copilot. Do I still have to address Microsoft licensing?
Well, to be honest, I mean, Copilot isn't a precursor to making sure your environment's secure. I mean, your environment should be secure in the first place. And candidly, people can email documents out today without Copilot, right? So having the right data governance in place basically protects your data, which is your intellectual property. So having the right tools in place doesn't need Copilot. It really needs the organization to have the right posture from both the security and data side.
So really, regardless of what language model you pick, having the right security infrastructure is paramount regardless.
Yeah. So, looking at the whole security stack. So what we look at is security stack foundation for Copilot, but candidly, it isn't even Copilot for AI in general. So what do you need? You need conditional access. So that's about multi-factor authentication. You need that applied across the board without fail. Every user should have MFA with controlled access. You need identity governance, management, and monitoring. So that means I need to know who you are and how you interact and what you have access to in our system. We need advanced email security. You need endpoint detection and response. So that's we call it MDR, but it basically with a 7x24 SOC. So that's looking at for anything happening on a physical device. It's going to look at any oddities and basically protect that. We need device governance, management, and monitoring. We need SIEM for logging it all. So that looks across the whole world and basically aggregates all your data and all your inputs and outputs within your own environment, and then looks at that to see if there's any anomalies with any of that. And then you really have to adopt a zero trust mindset, a zero trust posture where by default, you have access to nothing, right? And then the only thing we defined is permissions to give you access to the things you need. A lot of the world historically has gone the other way. Like we give you permission to stuff or maybe a best practice, and then you have to literally go figure out what you should turn off. A zero trust posture is kind of working the other way. Zero trust means we trust nothing until we explicitly state that you can do it.
And again, Kurt, it kind of seems like the requirements to do this correctly correspond really with the requirements from the government for compliance or hinted at new HIPAA compliance rules or CMMC or prior CMMC
right.
rules.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Foundationally, all the compliance issues and the things you're trying to address are really the same things. We're just making sure that you understand from an AI perspective, you just can get at that, or somebody theoretically can get at that information with these tools way faster.
Absolutely.
So what we kind of look at as a next step is we call it the AI readiness assessment. It's basically doing a deep dive in your environment and looking at what's in place and coming up with a security, technical readiness, and data governance, and looking at the gaps and coming up with a recommendation of what you need to do for that. So what are the gaps? So this is taken from a report. So this data is, we looked at a client, they had 15 key items. They had 3 security issues, 10 government issues, 2 technical issues, and we give them a detailed report. Their licensing readiness was, pretty good at 72%. Their Microsoft 365 adoption was a little low. So we looked at who's using what and how they're using it to come back with recommendations. And maybe that's more training and education on how to use the tools better. And then, if you have data exposure risk, do you have data loss prevention? Do you have certain sensitivity labels set up? So part of this assessment is just looking at your security and your data governance and coming up with a gap analysis and a remediation plan to address those.
Mm-hmm.
So again, here's some things that came up. We did this assessment. They were low adoption. Sparse workloads and breadth, meaning that, not a lot of people were using SharePoint the right way. Maybe they're not using Teams to full advantage. Security gaps, right? Did they manage device requirements, or are they configured properly? Do they have mailbox audit actions? Are things literally configured the right way? And historically, it's not that this is a bad thing. It's like you buy a Microsoft license, right? But to implement it the right way takes a strategy. So this helps make sure that your environment is set up the right way so that you can take advantage of all the capabilities Microsoft gives you out of the box. The biggest thing we find is data loss prevention. What that means is that you're defining in your world what information can be shared outside the world and how to protect it. It's not simple. I mean, social security numbers and credit card numbers, all that stuff is a real simple way of doing it, but you can get very granular. You can get down to certain types and kinds of data, like sensitivity labels. So you can say if a document's confidential, that document cannot be shared outside the business. Or maybe there's a document that's a level down that I'm going to share with partners, but I can say, oh, I'm just going to, you can have this document. You can only see it for 2 months, after a month or whatever, and then it disappears. So there's a way of managing all this information. And part of this gap analysis is kind of looking at how you're currently set up.
Kurt, maybe just before we go into the next slide, the outcomes from the report, right? It certainly seems like some folks, there's different, I guess, groupings of decisions folks make. Some I've heard say, this is great, I need to take these actions immediately. We've seen that. We've seen some folks say, I may not be in a position to take these actions, but I'm going to use it to give it to my board and ask for budget money for the upcoming season with some urgency on it. But we've seen the report that comes out of this is a pretty powerful report. I think even some organizations compare during these discussions, kind of double check their cyber insurance posture and
Yeah,
look for, we've heard some of that as when they were doing this, they wanted to make sure that they were actually protected. There's a lot of, I'd say, disclosures in those insurance policies that disclose that if you haven't done some of these things, they're not going to pay you because it's a
right.
very bare bones. You have to do these. Is that
Yeah.
kind of a fair summary?
Yeah, and again, the outcome to this is really a kind of a plan, and the plan basically can be remediation, right, to get you to a good baseline. Can be either you can do it yourself. You have enough detail to do it. If you have the wherewithal, we can do it with you. So if you have staff that wants to be engaged or involved in this, or we can do it for you. So there's a couple different options at the outcome to this to get you to that position, so that you can adopt AI in a secure and data government strategy.
And maybe just one other word, if I could be greedy, Kurt. It certainly seems like during the AI engineering pre-consultation discussions or consultation discussions that we do, some stuff are pretty obvious that's just missing,
Yeah,
that will point out, and they may take action immediately before they even go through a formal assessment. But I think that's a pretty common observation, I would say.
yeah,
So
yep.
maybe we can talk about like when folks go through the process and learn about this and they say, cool, I really want to do this. Maybe just give folks a little tease on what to expect on it and what the price is on that.
Yeah. So again, it's a AI readiness assessment. It identifies remediation work. So it gives what are the steps to get you to a point where foundationally you're in a good place to really turn this on or activate AI, and again, activate AI in the capacity that it is looking at your data internally, right?
Yeah.
The browser-based one, as long as you're not putting stuff in there, you're protected. But as soon as you start opening up internal information, this readiness assessment basically gets us to a point where we can secure that. It's a $3,000 investment. Again, you get a gap analysis, the report. Again, some of the previous slides are just like outcomes from a sample report that we generate. So it foundationally just tells you what you need to do to be in a good place.
Yeah. Excellent. Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate it. And we got a couple more things we definitely want to just hit on before we do a little bit of Q&A here.
Well, a lot of clients ask us about, well, how do the AI agentic world and agents and these large language models? It sounds like they're coming out every day. There's new ones coming out every day, and I mean there's over 2,000, and some of these are really specialized. Some of them have huge value, but some of them are not the right tools you want to go play with unless you really know what you're doing. So we recommend the zero trust strategy, and this is foundationally using ZIA. And what ZIA does, it acts like a firewall in the cloud. And what it does is no matter where your employees are, they have to be pointed to this firewall in the cloud to get out to the internet or get exposed to anything that's out on the internet. And we can actually apply policies. There's one out of the box I love with this tool where it says, you know what? You have access to no large language models unless we specifically go through and set up which ones you can. Oh, I can run Copilot or I can run Claude, but I can't run, Deep View. I can't run some of these Chinese-based large language models that potentially could be adverse to your business. So we can control that on your behalf, not in like in the main corporate office. We're saying any user, because we all know everybody's working remotely these days. It allows you to control that and help manage and monitor that.
And I think, Kurt, there's what identified over 2,000 plus
Yeah,
AI service models that are out there
yeah.
that folks can
and and
access.
and, and 5 minutes ago there's probably 2010. I mean it's changing that fast and evolving that fast.
Indeed. I mean, it definitely seems like there's some pretty high concern on how to stop that. And
Yeah,
this
kind of the
would
shadow
this
AI, we call it shadow AI. Yeah,
this would be absolutely one of the things that we discuss beyond just AI, just from a general security posture, especially
correct.
all the remote employees out there. It seems like the finance departments, particular, are high
Yeah,
risk for this, where
yeah.
they're uploading files, recording meetings with third-party voice services, and we've heard some horror stories on that. So this would be an outstanding tactical tool we could use to
Yeah,
help some folks.
yeah.
So maybe baby steps. Maybe we can talk about Teams Premium.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit on that?
Sure. So what this this is kind of a capability of Copilot, but not having to buy the whole Copilot license. So what we look, this is really a simple way for every Teams meeting you have to automatically do a Teams meeting recap, define tasks and responsibilities, like what action items are done outside of this. So it doesn't require a full Copilot license. The nice thing is you can buy it month to month. So you can, with this proof of concept, you can buy it for a couple of users. If you're doing any internal meetings or any client-facing meetings, at the end of the meeting, you get a meeting recap and the specific action items, and explicit to the point where it's assigned who that action item is assigned to. So it's $12 a month. You can apply it to a couple of users, 3 or 4 users. Recommend maybe a couple months using it. If you want to buy it annually, it's $10 a user. If you in fact buy a Copilot license later, you can get rid of this license because this capability is built into the Copilot for Business license. So again, if you're doing any kind of internal meeting, project management meeting, internally and client-facing meetings, every one of our account managers has this capability, and we use it with every meeting we have with a client.
I mean, I think, Kurt, too, this is completely walled off. I mean, you're out of the
Yeah.
gate, you're secure with this. And it is, again, we've heard some absolute horror stories where folks have used some third-party stuff and it is not protected, encrypted, but out of the gate, without anything, you're ready to roll with this.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great bridge because it's easily upgraded.
Yeah.
A good place to start. So trying to be true to our word, Kurt, and stay on time here. There is some very common questions. Some of it we may have asked, but I'm going to go over it again. 4 questions for you that, again, we've collected and folks may have on their mind. And meanwhile, if folks have a few Q&A questions, they can pop them in. So why don't I start with the first one? For those who are committed to a large language model such as Claude or GPT and don't want to use Copilot, can Centaris still help?
Yeah. We're large language model agnostic. Okay. Whether you choose Claude, GPT, or another model, we can still help with the strategy, the governance, security, data readiness, and user adoption. Our focus is to ensure you get the real business value from AI, regardless of the platform. So it's still, again, grounded in security and data governance.
Yeah. And I think, Kurt, we've been a Microsoft partner since what, 95?
95, yeah.
We
2
clearly
years,
have
yeah.
a large, skill set in Microsoft. And of course, we do talk about Copilot quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So next question, I'll show everyone in a second here. This is how do you secure an organization from using shadow AI or unauthorized AI services? Again, these are you got employees all over the place, and how do you stop them from going rogue? What's the answer to this?
Yeah. I mean, you don't try to block it entirely. You figure how to manage it, right? So the right approach is a combination of governance, visibility, and safe alternatives. It's setting a clear AI use policy, which we can help with, monitoring for unsanctioned tools, and most importantly, providing approved secure AI options that meet their needs, right? So if you don't give employees a trusted path, they're going to create their own. ZIA or that platform is one of the foundational things that we lean on to make sure that we're knowing where your staff, what they're using and what they can and cannot use and what they're doing. So
Yeah, excellent. Next question. How do I get training for my staff on AI?
Yeah. So click to the next one.
There we go.
So this is one of the tools that we recommend. It's AI security. It's not about licensing or controlling. It's really about practical reinforcement. It's about how do you expose your staff to the right way to use the tools, and then how do you kind of continuously update them. So they have the readiness and adoption modules in this tool, but then it has an AI nano learning, which are short role-based things they send out on a predefined basis. You can define the frequency of that. They have use models. They have use case models. So they could say if you're in HR, here's a use case of how you would use an AI model. If you're in marketing, here's how you might use it. This platform also lends itself to security awareness training. So it includes training, phishing simulations. It has compliance and policy, capabilities. some Microsoft 365 training capabilities. So it's kind of an all-encompassing platform to help our clients, but we like the whole AI training as a foundation to help our clients, start adopting this technology.
Yeah, I think blanket statement, Kurt. I mean, just in general, there's the technical aspects of security, but there's the human risk side of it.
Yeah.
It certainly seems like folks are concerned, even with the disclosures of cyber insurance policies and so forth. Sometimes you have to have this kind of piece in place. But this goes a step further to start to create the foundational layer of what they need to know about using AI, interacting with AI. And I think
Yep.
it's something we definitely want to bring to everyone's attention. It's a package that you can add
Yeah.
through us. Okay, so
Yep.
one last question for you. For those under pressure from their board to come up with an AI strategy, what would you suggest they do next?
I guess before building any kind of AI strategy, I think you need to understand your organization's AI readiness, right? So you need kind of a structured AI readiness to help identify the highest value opportunities, quantify the risk, and create a roadmap that turns AI from a hype into a measurable business results. So it is, again, uh, having I want to use Claude is not a strategy, right? Understanding that the organization is properly foundationally set to adopt something like AI or Copilot is really the next step.
Yeah, it seems to me, Kurt, some of the ways folks have positioned themselves is they one state that we are secure. We
Mm-hmm.
are worried about everyone's worried about sensitive data leakage. So there's a plan, and that's where a board usually comes in, sometimes even approve funding, et cetera, for what they need to do. And then I think there's the other element is we have the training, but we also have some really strong partnerships that we use where folks, we can do studies, workflow studies, and look for ways that they can be optimized. So there's some advanced stuff that you can do there. We do
Mm-hmm.
that through some partnerships that we have. But we do usually lean first towards securing the environment, but we do rely on partnerships for advanced workflow studies, et cetera, to help folks do optimization with it. So that's how anything you want to add on that, Kurt? That was a
Yeah,
mouthful.
that's again, this is a journey. It's not, there's no end. I mean, it changes every day. I know somebody was just talking about like what's the difference between Copilot licensing and like CoWorks, and so everybody's all concerned about there's a thing, credits and tokens, which are dollars and cents to be honest, and how the AI world is kind of leaning toward that. The good news is Copilot out of the box is a subscription service. You pay $21 a month for the Copilot for Business, which, if you're 300 users or less, that's where you qualify for that $21 versus the enterprise version's $30. Again, same product. We just have an SMB price. That is going to be a subscription service. When you start getting into agents and you start getting it doing things and tasks, Microsoft strategy is they are looking at those where you can actually preview that agent, and it'll come back and say, if you want to run this agent, here's the tokens it would cost, if you will, to run that agent. I had a client today. It's like, oh yeah, we want to do X, Y, and Z. I said, okay, great. What Microsoft is working on to say, if you want to do all these tasks, right, and just have it go execute on your behalf, here's what it's going to cost. Well, it takes 4 hours to do this today, but I can do it for $1.25. Okay, you're going to spend $1.25 and save 4 hours. I'll do that every day of the week. So Microsoft is working on strategies. They're tokenizing and doing all this stuff, but they're going to start giving you a price tag of what it really takes to run that. And you can do that in a preview version, kind of like create it, and then you kind of run a preview, and it'll come back and tell you kind of what it's going to cost. So that's kind of where things are headed. It's they understand that nobody wants just an open checkbook, right? I can't just let my team run off and start cranking up the dollars. So they're working on that.
Yeah, indeed. Kurt, there's a couple questions in the chat window. I could pick a couple of them. I think maybe what I'll do is just because some folks are on a time constraint is
Yeah.
we can maybe hang out for a few minutes if you're willing.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
close this portion of kind of the messaging for folks. I think a couple things that again, if you have to go, the closing message I'd say is we're here to help. We love our in-person days that we do, and we schedule those throughout the day. And the August 11th date is the one that we're going to do that with. Or if folks just want to learn about Teams and why, how you could leverage Microsoft Teams as your voice system. This is August 11th, but we do these all the time. And info@Centaris is a great email address if you don't know where to go. And we would be thrilled to do an AI discussion with you. So again, if folks have to drop off, we totally understand. We'll maybe again we can stay on for a minute, and I can try to read a couple of them. There's quite a few of them. So I think I'm just looking through here. When enabling Copilot, is there a learned version, or must it be trained? That was a question that came in earlier.
Well, you can configure Copilot to have customization, to have some of your thought process in advance. You can teach Copilot who you are and add things to what's called memory. So you can build that. You can have a prompt library, which again is kind of I'm working on a specific business issue, and I can actually build almost a Word document, or they store it in Copilot, where you can feed it that information again. What Microsoft doesn't do, and it's unequivocally, none of the information you put in Copilot, whether you have the Copilot chat version or the Copilot 365 paid version, none of that is used on the large language model to learn anything. So that's absolute, that Microsoft has set a stance that none of our information that we use in our platform gets shared out with the large language models for learning.
Yeah, I think that was another question that came in. I think it ties into it. Kurt says 365 approved for use of confidential, proprietary, or sensitive company information.
Yeah.
It's Copilot 365.
Yeah. That's all foundational on, again, how your data governance internally. It's not sharing it outside your walls, but you just don't want that potentially it's not sharing with the large language models. It doesn't mean it can't get exposure if you do it wrong, where somebody can search it. So that's you got to be careful. Those are two different things.
Yeah. And another one, another quick one I got in here, I think is worthwhile to sort to the top is, it's a zero trust model, was the question. Have you come across a model that has proven successful for zero trust? Have you come across a model that has proven successful?
We have, we're able to, because of the research we've done, we have identified a platform called Zscaler, which is really an enterprise-based platform used by Fortune, 100. I mean, it is the kind of the cream of the crop, because of special arrangements and a relationship that we have. We can actually bring that down to our SMB clients all the way down to 10 users. So we have identified this platform as a solid solution to provide that.
Yeah, I think there was a ton of work that has gone into it, and it's been outstanding. Really an enterprise grade that, with our special arrangement, we can bring it down to a small business. Pretty awesome relationship there. And I think that it probably answers that question for sure. I think just for time, why don't we jump to one other one I'll read. It says, so realistically, we're at $50 to $60 per user per month in AI for Copilot and Cowork on top of base licensing. Does that sound right to you, Kurt? 50 to 60 per user. Yeah.
Again, Copilot's 21. Coworks is again, it's usage based. So it is going to get, you could buy a Coworks license with, thousands and thousands of credit/tokens that don't cost a lot of, the tokens are less than a penny each. So it really depends on how you're using the tool, right? And at the end of the day, it's still about looking at what's my business problem, right? And what's the effort? So what does it take to do this today? And then how fast can I get it done? And what's the ROI? It's almost simple. Understand the business problem. We do X, Y, and Z. It takes 4 hours to do that. Okay, great. Let's work on a Cowork solution that does that on my behalf, right? Solves that business problem, and then understand what it costs to run that, and then say, okay, well, it takes 4 hours to do this. I can spend $1.25 and run that. I would look the ROI, and that's pretty good. So it's really trying to understand the business problem and how to solve it. So there isn't a magic number. It's really it's usage. Copilot is a fixed fee. That's a subscription service. That's $21.
Indeed. Probably in spirit of wrapping up, Kurt, I know
Yep.
someone asked, could they take a screenshot? I think we're probably past that, but I
Yeah.
mean, we
Sure.
we can provide the recording if asked, and I think we can share the slides. I mean, most of the time, folks, they're super friendly and they're just probably our genuine interest in the subject. They're very friendly information sessions, and they're probably what 45 minutes, Kurt. These we call them SME AI
Yeah.
calls, and we really just do what we're talking about, and they're fun calls. Everyone's at a different level, and usually there are things that are spotted in it, or it's just knowledge transfer. But it's something we like to do for our client base,
Yep.
and even if it just builds our friendship stronger, it's great. But sometimes there's some things that you should
Yeah.
really budget for and plan for or get on. So that's probably it. So
There you go.
we're at 11:40. This is a recording, so people will have a 40-minute recording. Why don't we wrap up here? Again, thanks everyone for joining us. Thrilled to have you check this out. Hope to see you on one of our SME calls or in the office. And with that, hope to talk to you soon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye now.